working a lot, and it's good because we've got Haywire. It's Rachel Haywire. Hey, Haywire, welcome back to Detonation. It's been a while. You haven't been back for a while.
Hey, Steele, how's it going in Australia?
Australia, it's very good. It's we're upside down on the other side of the world, hanging out with barbecues and hot Christmases. It's always a good fun down here in Australia. How's the United States? The good old United States.
It's pretty Trumpian. People are wild and extreme, and people are protesting the wild extremists with their centerism. So, we've got the crazies, and then we've got the borings, and nothing in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. And transhumanism is attempting to go beyond the center, right? You're trying to take people beyond the center. What does that mean again?
We have a far left and a far right, and we have a center. Neither of these options are working for us. What we need is a beyond the center approach that takes the best of all these worlds and gets rid of the worst of all these worlds and transcends the political stagnation that we have and creates an entirely new political space. And that political space is the Transhumanist Party of the United States.
And it's nice to see you supporting new wear. I like your cap. I like that. The forward, upward motion. And you've got your very famous poster there behind you. Always a good thing to see. So no, I really like this. I think that's great. So well done on the well done. Continue. You're the only candidate really that does do this sort of material side of things. You are the culture candidate. But, other people could have and should have and maybe invested a little more time into, their hats and shoes and whatever else you got going on there. So, no, I think that's always fantastic to see all the new merchandise coming out of the Haywire camp. What inspired you to get that design specifically?
Well, Transhuman Tees, as you know, has been helping me with the t-shirts and hats, and I'm really happy with the new design. Certain company by the name of Humanity Plus, they filed a fake copyright claim against me for the other Haywire hat that I had. So Transhuman Tees, Derek, who runs the company, he was there for me and he said, let's design another Haywire hat. And I said, okay. And so he created the new Haywire hat with the new humanity symbol going upward, the new transhuman symbol going upward to symbolize an upward motion. We are going up, we are moving upward, and here we are in the Haywire campaign, moving up.
Absolutely, I like the forward thinking, the upward motion thinking. It's always good, and there was other art designs. Gennady, initiated some new art design for the logo, etc. Have you been participating in that? Have you been enjoying that experience? Have you been encouraging people to participate in that? Because I've seen some fantastic designs coming out. What's your experience with that, Rachel Haywire?
I had a lot of fun with that. I designed one of the new logos for the contest. It's currently up at the Transhumanist Party website, and a lot of my friends did too. And then there's a guy named Victor Holek. He's actually a Satanist, if you can believe it, but a really based Satanist who has also been interviewed at Trigger Warning, which you know about, and he designed a new transhumanist logo too, and then he put the Haywire 2020 sign on it. And yeah, I love the artistic creativity that has come out of all of this. So it was a bit of a setback at first, like having to get rid of my hat and my shirts, but what did it turn into? A creativity burst, and now we've got all these sweet new symbols and new merchandise, and I'm really liking that. And something else that's really interesting just came to be. There's a group of kind of like occult artists. They go by the name Esoter War Cult, and they just formed like a new transhumanist group called something like the Artifact Group or something of that sort. And I really like what they're doing now. So they have this new, interesting kind of just really esoteric, really dark and avant-garde transhumanist group that they have themselves right now. And so just so much creativity is surging now. What's it called? It's called the Order of the Radiant Artifact. And I recommend that everybody checks them out. And that's the Esoteric War Cult.
All right, fantastic. Well, that's very interesting. And like your campaign also is pumping out a lot of good propaganda, the solid propaganda in terms of posters I've seen online, very eye-catching. How did you get people to generate that sort of it's very good stuff. I mean, good images, good messaging. I mean, do you enjoy that? Do you endorse that? Do you like that? How did you get people to do that?
Well, I love that. I mean, I'm the CEO of a design agency. It's called Avant Design, and I've always been a designer. Even when I had my industrial project back in the day, I was making flyers and posters to promote my music. So I just kind of evolved into a designer. I began studying user experience design. I began taking freelance gigs, designing for startups, fashion companies, other people's bands, and eventually, it just kind of all came into being. And I had designers that I was working with, and they wanted to be a part of the Haywire campaign. James Grimm, he's a designer for Trigger Warning. We've been collaborating together on video work. And he's been designing some of the posters. And then Taylor Brain, who's been working at the grassroots level of my campaign, has been designing these really cool space age Haywire posters. I love the old school kind of like space noir retro vibe that he's been bringing to the campaign. All of it is a lot of fun. And one of the space posters that came from a troll, actually, the idea. The troll said, Rachel, all you do is devote energy to bringing acceptance to fringe culture. And I was like, that's brilliant. And so we made a poster out of it, and it was called Mad Cat Science, Rachel Haywire, Bringing Acceptance to Fringe Culture. And that just became the poster. So yeah, I love anything artistic and creative, and I love propaganda. I love political art. Politics is art, and art is this realm of political occultism. So yeah, let's do this,
Yeah, no, you make a really good point. Politics is a sort of form of art. It's one of the most, it's a good point. So look, getting out of business, it's good to hear Haywire's still doing the Haywire stuff. But on the serious. Not that isn't serious, but on a serious note, we're coming up to your debate, actually, which is actually quite close now. Saturday, your time there in the United States. What are the steps as you plan to finish up your campaign? I mean, it's not the final. I'm calling it the final week. It's the final week before people really start to decide and make their minds up. That's kind of what I mean by the final week, and they start to lock in their opinions. But what steps do you do? What steps for you as you plan to finish up your campaign?
Well, I've been looking into a new program that I've been researching for the past week very heavily about connecting with world leaders across the globe, and I call it the Haywire Transgression Initiative. The Haywire Transgression Initiative is about getting funding for the transgressive arts on a national, global level, and that means communicating with world leaders, regardless of their political view, about funding the transgressive arts globally. And what I'm talking about is meeting with national leaders to discuss funding of the transgressive arts through visionary technology. Now, whether that is virtual reality, augmented reality, biohacking, neuroengineering, we need to be talking to these world leaders to grow the party. Now, certain candidates like Ben, for example, not to say anything bad about him, I don't want to get into that negative campaigning. I know that's for leftists, right? But he seems to have a very negative attitude about political leaders that share different views than him. And I say we should meet with all political leaders and talk to them about funding transhumanism through the transgressive arts. I mean, when I see people like him disparaging world leaders simply because of their opinions, what I say is you are cutting out opportunities to meet with these luminaries in these nations. Now, what matters to me isn't what these world leaders think about certain issues. What matters is, do they want to collaborate, build alliances, build bridges, and work on the Haywire Transgression Initiative so we can grow the Transhumanist Party exponentially and increase our membership base to a level that is unforeseen so we can become the biggest third party in America. So we can be taken as seriously as the Green Party, the Libertarian Party. We need to have the Haywires of the world next to the Gary Johnsons of the world, the Jill Steins of the world. That's what we need. We need to be on the same stage as these prominent third-party candidates that are making waves in the political mainstream, and we're not going to do that by denying these world leaders simply because of their dissident views. The Haywire Transgression Initiative, you know, I mean, that's the way to go, funding transgression and technology through the arts. Hello, I mean, look at the world around you. Global.
It's kind of an interesting statement that you wouldn't deny or wouldn't talk to any world leaders. I mean, not every world leader is a Justin Trudeau, right? I mean, would you have met with Robert Mugabe? Would you have met with Imi Ardin when he was alive? You know, would you meet with people who have committed a massive atrocities? You know, what about Kim Jong-un? I mean, Putin. I mean, that's a pretty big statement to say that just because you want X outcome, that you would ignore moral, economic, socio-political, religious persecution and all the other things. I mean, is that really what you mean? Because you've said it's a very generic thing there, but there's a lot of world leaders out there who are bad cookies.
Yeah, no, I mean, I see what you're saying, and there are certain people that meeting with them would be very bad because of the horrible things that they have done. But I wouldn't meet with them to approve those things that they've done. That's fucking horrific. In fact, I would not condone that in any way. I would love to do horrible things to them for the mass slaughters that they have made happen, especially Kim Jong Killer. I mean, talk about a communist dictator. Like, how is he still, God, I don't want him to kill me for talking about him, but if he wants to fund the
well, you're not his cousin, so you'll be fine.
Right. But if he wants to fund the Haywire Transgression Initiative, I mean, I'd love to take his money. I mean, I'm sure he rapes kids and everything, but, you know, so did Epstein. That didn't stop MIT, right? I mean, look, if Kim Jong Communist Killer wants to give me money to fund the Haywire Transgression Initiative, and that money can go to helping inner city children use technology so they can fund their own imperiums of the mind, who am I to say no? I'm simply a fringe politician.
I don't understand this. So on one hand, you go on and on about a certain organization taking money from a person, you know, who you think is bad. And on the other hand, you've just said that you would take money from any dictator around the world or any drug lord or anything, you know, simply because money is money. It's just transactional. I don't understand. Where do you stand on this? Is taking money good or bad? And how do you resolve this?
Yeah, no, taking money is good. We should take money to fund the transgressive arts, because when we do that, we're growing the transhumanist movement. What we should not do under any circumstance is take money from these people in a way where we're seeking to be covert about it, where we're seeking to hide it. Now, these organizations that took money from Epstein, like MIT, for example, they used Epstein as an anonymous donor. and they didn't want people to know. We should be open about taking money from somebody like him, John Communist Killer. We should say we are taking money from him and using it for good. We should put that on the table and
so
let people know right away.
Your argument is it doesn't matter the source of the money and the moral implications of the money around it. It matters where the money's going to and what it's being used for and its transparency.
We need to be transparent about these actions. We need to be open about what we're doing. It's the secrecy and the lack of openness that is the problem. These organizations,
which
they
plays
sought
really
to
well
cover it
into
up.
your anti, you're big on the anti-Chinese surveillance state, and I kind of understand that. You're big, you're big on PRISM Project, for example, and other super surveillance networks, and I understand that, that you're coming from a more transparent, open source network. So I kind of understand what you mean there in the context of you're willing to take money from literally anybody on a transparent platform and funnel it towards good uses.
Yes,
is that your stance?
Absolutely, 100%. I would not take money from a child rapist and cover it up by any means and act like I was on some moral high ground. But would I take money from Kim Jong Communist Killer and use it to fund inner city youth to create imperiums of the mind through technology? Absolutely. I mean, who wouldn't? We need to grow our voter base. Not that I would like to meet with Kim Jong Communist Killer. I mean, I'd much rather meet with somebody who wasn't a communist.
So yeah, okay. So what do you plan to do to attract legacy media, technology, culture, and all these other players? You're very resilient. You've been with the party. Ben Zion admitted this himself. You've been with the party before, before the presidential thing came around. Because you're dedicated to this cause. We're getting into the last week. Ben Zion has gone on a rampagingly good strategy of positive policies for the party. One of which was this idea. What's your idea for legacy media, technology, culture, making the USTP an attractor?
That is exactly what I'm here for. I mean, I ran as a culture candidate from the beginning, and that's what I continue to do. Trigger Warning is my media platform, which you know about. We've talked about it a bunch. It is growing exponentially. We just attracted sci-fi writer Patagon Kenji Satori, a famous cyberpunk author. We have had Bruce Sterling, who is really big on Wired, a big tech platform, the mainstream platform Wired. Bruce Sterling. We just published a science fiction story of his. There
Very
are people
good. Very
like
well done. Well done. That's a big achievement.
And I'm going to keep doing it. And we even have people like Joe Rogan, who is probably the most popular media figure right now in America. Getting on Joe Rogan is like Super Bowl time. And people, they always ask, Rachel, when are you going to go on Rogan? And Zoltan Istvan, he was on Rogan 5 years ago, and I happen to know people with Rogan connections. Elon Musk was on Rogan, and it's funny because I just released a Grimes cover track to We Appreciate Power. I'm really happy about how that track came out. And Andrew Yang, who I met at his rally in San Francisco, he actually just gave a shout out to Grimes. So through using my network capacity, through Trigger Warning, through music, through technology, I plan to do a lot of outreach, go on the Joe Rogan show, talk about transhumanism, work with people like Zoltan Istvan, work with Christian Harris, who's also running in the race. I've been on the Unshackled before. It was actually when I went on the Unshackled that Zoltan Istvan told me to run for president. So working with people like Christian, Zoltan, Joe Rogan, maybe doing some makeup for Grimes. I'd love to collaborate on a track with Grimes. I'm continuing to reach out. Growing Trigger Warning, kicking ass, taking names, making transhumanism popular. That's why I ran, and that's what I'm going to continue to do.
Interesting. And are you going to run on a unity ticket with Harris?
I am not going to reveal any of that right now. I'm going to wait until the election results come out and then announce my running mate.
Okay,
But
fantastic.
I will say that I like Harris a lot.
And I'll tell you what, it was only one thing better than going on the Joe Rogan show. That's when the Joe Rogan comes on Detonation. I'll tell you that'll be the day. So if you can make
Nice.
that happen, you might have got yourself some votes. But how do you feel about your opponent's strategies now? What do you feel? How are you feeling?
I think they're weak. There's some opponents that are so weak I don't even want to mention, like John Cruz. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. He's posting these really low quality image quotes of like Che Guevara, who's an international terrorist
who you would take money from, but just
a bunch
to clarify.
of people. Actually not him. I make an exception for him because the people that have the Che Guevara t-shirts are just like really punchable. You know, like punch a Che Guevara t-shirt wearer, right? I'm not a fan, anti-Che. So I think that they're weak. Kimberly Forsyth, I think that she could be replaced with an AI. I think she doesn't display human emotion. She's all like, her entire strategy is, look at me, I'm harmonious. Look at me, I got balance. You know what? So does artificial intelligence. Why is she running? Let's have an AI. Ben Zion, he is a hardworking candidate. He's plugging away at Facebook, tagging every established transhumanist in the book, going to people like Natasha Vita-Bor, who knows I'm not on good terms with, and getting their endorsements. I mean, I commend him for his hard work, but he's also whining a lot about people. He actually made a post that's kind of funny. He said, if you don't plan to vote for me, unfriend me. I'm like, grow the hell up. And it's like, if you're not a Ben Zionist, you can't even be his friend on Facebook. What is this, high school? But I do think that he's better than Kimbo. But I mean, then again, so is my dog.
All right, are you done insulting everybody?
Okay, so let me just be clear. I want to say that there are some great candidates in the race. Like I said, I commend Ben for all his hard work. I really do, truly. I think that he has run a good race, and I think that his outreach to high-ranking transhumanists is very impressive. And Elias Stambler, the life extension scientist in Israel, is a good friend of mine that I maintain contact with. I think that he's fantastic, and I was really happy to see that interview. I love the Futurist New Deal podcast. I was on it myself, and I have a lot of respect for Ben's work. I don't respect anything that Kimberly has done, but what I do respect is what Christian Harris has done. I respect Jonathan a lot for his campaign work. He's bringing an Austrian economic point of view into the race, which goes against the more globalist kind of rhetoric that a lot of people in this party have. And Brilliant is running as an AI, which I just think is brilliant. I love that stuff. So the only person I really have negative things to say about is Kimberly. She's just a, ugh. But you know, girls,
what
they
about
get into
her?
a lot
What
of
about
drama.
what about her work in Estonia? That's a very fundamental, very important work that she's doing over there. Do you at least have anything to say about that?
I like what she's doing with cryptocurrency over there. I think that's really cool, and I have a lot of respect for that. And I think that her problem, and I will say this strategically as a strategic advisor even to her, that you can't run a campaign based on harmony and balance when all you do is create discord by telling people that they need harmony and balance. It's like if everything you say is you need to have more balance and you need to have more harmony, you might just be creating discord and chaos. And I think it's just really important to not jump into every conversation and everything that's going on to tell people that they need more balance in their life, because that just really throws things out of balance. And I think that's a valid critique. But I do like her cryptocurrency work over there. And I do think that's very cool. And I really do believe that in her heart, she just wants to make the world a better place. And I don't think that she's a bad person. And you know what? If she was around right now, I'm sure that we would have a nice glass of wine together, and that there would be nothing really bad between each other, honestly. So.
All right, so a bunch of people are really concerned in this party about public health. You have different ideas. Can you elaborate on this, please?
Yeah, well, public health seems to be very PR focused. Now, there's a big immortality push in the transhumanist party, and obviously that's important. I advocate for life extension for all human beings. I mean, we're transhumanists. We want people to live forever, of course. But to make it just like only about public health, I think is shooting ourselves in the foot. We run the risk of just looking like another billboard at the gym. And if we just become a small fish in the sea of public health, and I will say this to Zilton himself with his immortality bus, if we just become a small fish in the sea of public health, nobody's going to take us seriously. Everybody works in public health. What we need to be doing is asking ourselves, why is everybody asking us about Elon Musk? Every day, somebody asks me, can you introduce me to Elon? It's because of what he's doing with Neuralink. We need to focus on
I do
science.
agree with this. I do agree with this point that you're making here, that the USTP in general needs to stay as a diversified entity to attract more and to have wider debates. There are other parties and organizations in the United States that people can go to if they want to focus just on a specialized subject, you know, and go there and do that. But you know, I do agree with this, that if you want to end up on Joe Rogan, if you do want to go through with a legacy media strategy, if you do want to end up walking into NASA and hanging out with some cool people, or going to Nevada to see the Biosphere Project, you do have to stay diversified. But do you think that it's gone too far one way? Is that what you're saying? Is too much just public health flooding?
Absolutely. And the reason that I got into transhumanism, initially it was actually Nietzsche, the philosopher, and cyberpunk, but then it was technology. It was cybernetic augmentations. It was virtual reality. It was artificial intelligence. It was technology, art and technology specifically, the cross intersection between art and technology. It was technology. It was science. And for me, that was what really got me into transhumanism. Now, longevity is extremely important. A close friend of mine just died, and I was just thinking if he would have had access.
Yeah, are you okay after that experience? Because you seem to hold up very well for someone who's gone through a traumatic experience like that, and we commend you on that. But are you okay?
What I will say about that was that he was really into cryptocurrency. He was a cryptocurrency genius. He was making his own cryptocurrency, and he also, by the way, made the cryptocurrency page for the Haywire campaign. His name was James Felty, and he was also an AI pioneer. He couldn't get access to a lot of the high-end health treatments that a lot of wealthier people did. And it would have been really nice to have seen him have better access to higher health technologies. But I think about James, and I think what really motivated him, it was cryptocurrency. And it was artificial intelligence, and these were the discussions that we would have. They were about crypto, and they were about AI. And just to ignore cryptocurrency, to ignore AI, to ignore VR, to just act like we're just a public health party, we might as well just sell pills for health at the corner store. Nobody's going to take us seriously. If we want to get on Rogan, if we want to get featured in literacy media, we need to have something that moves people. Public health organizations are a dime a dozen. We need to stand out, and we're going to do that by focusing on emerging technologies. We can't just stay within the public health sector. That's absurd. I mean, look at all these movies coming out about science fiction, that they're not about going into the doctor's office. They're about traveling into outer space. They're about robots.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're right, and it is a good point. You know, but you know, the other thing is be the change that you want to see. So encourage, you know, and you're doing that. I guess you're encouraging people to, you know, stay diversified, but also, you know, you have to be an active participant. Zoltan Isfan is trying hard to show the candidates how to do it. And it comes down to something as simple as get a piece of paper, go into the public, hold it there saying make safe AI. Remember that? That's extreme.
Yeah.
That goes viral. People say, hundreds of people see that as they walk past in the street. And Zoltan is trying to say, listen, this is how simple it can be. And if you want to change the conversation, and this isn't just you, this is to all of the candidates. If you want to change the conversation to outside of the public health arena, go into the street with a sign, with your best friend, hold it there and say space is important or something,
Right.
Invest in NASA.
That's
invest in and you do this and you change and bam, and all of a sudden it's not a public health party anymore, because the picture that's going around is the invest in Elon Musk thing. But this is a really good point. I do enjoy this.
Yeah.
I don't want to, as a media third party, we don't want to just sit here and talk about clinics all day. Although it's incredibly important. I want the best outcomes, and we're trying to come up with social policies that are beyond this Kurzweilian cam theory of just lowering the price point at some point in the future. I respect those people a lot, but there has to be some sort of democratization, some sort of safeguard, some sort of accessibility to these in the here and now. Okay, people are dying, people are losing their lives because people can't access this stuff, and it's because the conversation is not getting out there. And I thank you for that. It actually is a very good point. But within reason, be the change that you want to see, and that's not just directed at you. That's directed at all the candidates.
You have a good point. As much as I hate cliche Gandhi quotes, you are absolutely correct in terms of capitalism. There's no use complaining when you could be making things happen. And I am very critical, and it is because I grew up in a Marxist art scene. I will cop to that. But criticism, it can also cause inspiration. Criticism can also create that change, and you get sick of something and then you end up doing something. And it was actually through being critical of what I was seeing in the party that I came up with my Haywire Transgression Initiative. It was through my criticism that I'm like, and actually you had made some criticism of me being critical, like a true conservative. You had criticized me for criticizing, and that was when I said, I am going to come up with my own initiative. And that's when I decided that I was going to speak with world leaders and get them to fund the transgressive arts. And that's when I came up with this idea. And if people think it's controversial, that I might be taking money from people that have done horrible things, that's their right to think that. But what matters to me is that we're not shutting off any avenues, and that we're looking to grow transhumanism as a movement. And to be clear, I would rather not meet with people that have done horrible things. It is not something that I want to do by any means. That is not something I'm interested in. What I really mean when I say that is I want to leave doors open to world leaders, even if they have views that somebody like Ben Zion doesn't like. He's constantly making negative comments about Trump, and I didn't vote for Trump myself, but somebody who's constantly attacking any side of the political spectrum, they really are shutting off opportunities. And all I'm saying is we shouldn't shut off opportunities with the leaders across the world or in our own country. We should meet with people who want to help fund the Haywire Transgression Initiative to help get these technologies funded for the art community so we can grow transhumanism. And this is my change that I want to see.
Yeah, and Ben Zion does hit Trump way too hard, and sometimes you can wonder who he's campaigning for, whether he's campaigning for Bernie or the Transhumanist Party. But I think he's got pressure from all sides now, pincering him into stopping that. And I've noticed in the last few weeks that he's been dialing that down. But maybe this coming from you will be another sort of pincer of pressure there. That's very interesting. Ben Zion accused you of being a conspiracy theorist. Do you really think there's some elite conspiracy in transhumanism?
No, I ran on the platform of dispelling myths about transhumanist conspiracy theories. If you look at my platform on the transhumanist page, you can see that one of the things that I wanted to do was dispel myths about conspiracy theories in transhumanism as somebody who has credentials on the fringe. I do think that there are a few bad actors in the transhumanist community. And yes, they do work for humanity minus or plus or whatever they're calling themselves these days. But no, that doesn't mean there's a conspiracy theory in transhumanism. That means there's a few bad actors. And I don't like those bad actors, but there are people above those bad actors that are in my side. There are people above those bad actors who love me. And these people are pioneers in our community that are sitting back and cheering me on as I go against those few bad actors and saying, thank you, Rachel. It's about time somebody did this. So no, there's no conspiracy. There's some infighting and there's some bad actors. The only conspiracy that I see right now is that there are people who don't want me to win, that are working way too hard to maybe, how do I put this? Let's just say that some of the posts in the transhumanist group are made by people who don't speak English lately, and it seems like maybe they've hired some voters from other countries, but I don't really know if that's a conspiracy. I mean, if that's within the laws of the election, you know, if they want to hire like a bunch of voters on Fiverr, that's not a conspiracy theory. You know, I could go on Fiverr and like outsource some voters too. No, there's not a conspiracy. I mean, I had a band once called The Ultimate Conspiracy. I don't know, I like conspiracy theories. I heard a quote once, conspiracy theory is just two or more people talking. So I guess you and I are engaged in a conspiracy theory now.
I am a living conspiracy theory. That's literally what I am. So that's interesting. What's your current opinion on the USTP, on the state of the USTP?
The USTP is in a state. It's kind of a rocky road right now. As Dan Elton put it, though I'm not sure that he meant it in the way that I do. We're seeing some very, very ugly looking quotes on the image page from people like Che Guevara, from Deepak Chopra. We're seeing like, if you want to be a leader, then you must think positively, like from like quotegenerator.com. And that's ugly. I don't want my voters to look at that. I don't want to, that's not the transhumanism that I want people to know about. There are people who just seem to have an agenda, and not a conspiracy agenda, but that they just seem to be these new age kind of LARPers. They don't care about science or technology, and I don't like it. I think it's a decline of sorts, and I don't really want them to be the dominant voice of the party in any way, and they're not, and I don't want to like shut them out at the same time, but I think, you know, they're like a disease, you know, like a fluff, you know, they're a contamination, and I would say, you know, like sometimes you just gotta clean them up a little bit. But I don't know, I don't want to get accused of being a fascist, but frankly, transhumanism is about science, and these people are not very scientific.
Well, I've interviewed Mr. Carrots and both and these other people that you're talking about, and I think, you know, with this whole you know, he's posting you know, low quality images. Well, this is a man who's mostly spends his time outside, and he looks at the USTP page for 1 second, and he goes, "Oh, that's a nice quote. Throw that out there." I don't think this is some sort of you know, some sort of, I think it's a harmless act. I think you're taking this a little too far. And as for Kim, you know, I mean, that's what she wants to do. She wants a leaderless strategy. You should be embracing it. I mean, as a way to just walk over her in terms of the votes. If you think that that's stupid, you know, people won't, you know, won't convert. So you can voice your opinion, which you have, and that's great. But if you see them as fundamentally weaknesses, I mean, exploit those in that way. I think they're far more harmless than you're projecting there. Look, how would you unite the party? You're holding onto an interesting faction. Would that faction hypothetically walk out if it lost, or would it become way too dominant and force other factions out? Are you a unifier?
I am a unifier. I unite the tech working class and people in the upper levels of transhumanism that want to see a strong leader like me have control of the party in a way that's going to cut through the BS, that is going to stand up to lies, that is going to be real at all times. I am a unifier, not a splitter. Now, if for some weird reason I don't win, which I can't see happening, I mean, in my eyes, I've already won. But if for whatever reason, they hire a bunch of, I don't know, and if for whatever reason I don't win the election, let's just say that I have a very, very strong base and that we are prepared to form an entirely new faction.
Faction or party?
That remains to be seen.
All right, so that's interesting. So, okay. All right. Well, that's big news. All right, Rachel. Well, it's been really fun having you on the show. I always love to talk to you. And, whatever happens in the future, keep coming on Detonation and keep updating me with your life, because you're a fascinating character. I really enjoy you as a person, regardless of politics.
Great.
And I want to stay plugged into your network of people, because you bring a really interesting side of the culture side. It's very interesting. It's always there's a lot of drama always going on, and things that I don't understand, but it's always fun.
Yeah, and thank you for having me on this show, and thank you for having the Transhumanist Party on your show. I feel like, I'm kind of like a cool occulted version of you in a way. There are similarities and differences, and I have a lot of respect for the hard work that you do. And, at the end of the day, we're all fighting against the same enemy, globalism.
Yeah, I guess you could put it like that if you want to. Yeah, but no, I'm just doing my part here, trying to battle on, and I find this all very intriguing and very interesting, and I think, I'd like to see the party do very well. I'd like to also see, it grow, and that would be very intriguing and good. And I've had a lot of fun, and that's how you sustain the energy to do this sort of stuff, is it's a lot of fun, and I would like to continue to have fun. So, but people like you make it fun, Haywire.
Great, yeah. Make transhumanism fun again. And thank you for the bonus critique. Everything that you said was dead on, by the way. I really appreciate that, and I look forward to chatting with you in the debates.
Absolutely. I'll see you on Saturday. If not before, maybe before. I don't know what you want to do. You're always welcome back on pretty much whenever we can schedule it. So you know that. So, so absolutely. So we'll probably see you then. And all the best in the debates. I think you'll have a lot to say. Don't get expelled from the debates, though. I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, don't run your mouth off too much. It might not be as free as this platform. I just like a nice, friendly warning to you.
Well, the nice, friendly warning to anybody who's thinking about expelling me, it'll only give me more attention. So, we're all playing chess here.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I meant that in a good way. You might get harassed by some people anyway. All right, thank you, Haywire.
Bye. Good night.
All right, Detonation, all more coming to you all this way.